We have to start off with what happened a week ago, basically right at this time. Obviously, Saquon Barkley not at camp. Giants and Saquon can't get a deal done long term. And Bobby, I'm just asking right out of the gate here, do you think a deal gets done before the season? And if it doesn't, you think we see Saquon at all this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can't get a long-term deal done, because of the
Hmm.
the rules and the deadline. But they could negotiate some type of 1-year deal. But at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley is going to be playing football this year. The only way that didn't happen doesn't happen is if that Zoom call that all the running backs had the other night was they all plan to sit out or sit in. But at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley cares too much about his image, like very hyper focused on himself, on his image, and making the most of being in the New York market that he's going to play games. Now he's going to miss all of training camp, and it's going to be a storyline, and he should do what he can to make the Giants uncomfortable enough to make them not franchise tag him next year. But at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley is going to play football for the New York Giants, or else he'd be throwing money away.
I love the way you broke that down, particularly with him not wanting to miss out being in that New York market. When you look at this Giants team, they played well down the stretch. Daniel Jones was tremendous running the football in the playoff game and overall against the Minnesota Vikings. Just give me your assessment from covering this team, how you view Daniel Jones within this organization.
Yeah, I mean, we have these conversations of it's either you're a top 5 quarterback or bust sometimes, but there is value in being like a solid, good quarterback, which I think Daniel Jones falls into. The question is, can he get into the consistency of being in like the Dak Prescott range where he hasn't shown that over his career? He'll never be in the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow type range, but can he be in that solid range that Alex Smith found himself for some time? And we know last year, I think, should give confidence if you have bought in on Daniel Jones. Is they did it really with no help around him besides Saquon Barkley, which is a running back, handing it off to and having a good running game. But in the receiving game, there was not much help on the outside. It was more Daniel Jones making those guys better. So now they add Darren Waller. You draft some speed in Jalen Hyatt. You get Paris Campbell, who had some success last year with the Colts. And at least you have like a baseline of you can put 3 wide receivers on the field where the first half of last season, they couldn't run 3 tight end or 3 wide receiver formations because the third one was David Sills or a washed up Kenny Galladay. So if you're hoping for, best quarterback, top 5 in the league, no, but Daniel Jones is comfortably a solid quarterback in the NFL.
Bobby, I was just about to ask you about the receiving core. Obviously, you bring up the big trade with Vegas bringing in Waller, which gives the Giants an elite tight end for the first time in a long while. And then just looking at the rest of the receiving core, obviously Shepard coming off significant injury, Slayton there still. Isaiah Hodgkins was one of the better stories in the league last year. Just you mentioned it there. You expect this receiving core to be significantly better than a year ago.
Not even it's at least they can run out 3 guys where
Right.
that was like that's why Isaiah Hodgins was so important for the Giants last year. It wasn't because he's some star player. He's not going to be a star in the NFL. He's a good story, but they were just able to run 11, 3 wide receiver personnel. But now where one injury doesn't throw them, away, where they added Paris Campbell, drafted Jalen Hyatt, who some viewed as a first round pick, Sterling Shepard back. They even signed Cole Beasley, who was getting serious playing time for the Bills last year, and we know fits what Brian Dable likes to do, despite being 34 years old. So at least they'll have guys that they can run out there, and then you have the Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley type stars on the team where there's going to be less stress on those guys. And, we know Brian Dable won Coach of the Year. Mike Kafka comes from Kansas City. They're going to figure out ways to get the ball in Darren Waller's hands as long as he's on the field.
Bobby, when you look at this team from a defensive standpoint, tell people that don't follow the Giants that closely what you think are some strengths and what some potential weaknesses are or pitfalls for them could be.
The strength is the pass rush. If the core four can stay healthy. Dexter Lawrence was all pro last year. Leonard Williams is very capable still. And then Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari. How well can Azeez stay on the field? How much does Kayvon Thibodeau grow in year 2, which we do see a nice bump there. But when those 4 guys are on the field, their pass rush look really good. Where they're going to struggle is they have a rookie outside corner. Their nickel corner is Cordell Flott, who didn't even play much in the nickel last year. And then Adoree Jackson, who is a really good player, but has missed games every single year. And then opposite of Xavier McKinney, I mean, there's 5 different guys who can win that second safety spot. And if 5 guys can win it, that means that no one out there is separating themselves from the rest of the pack. So Wink Martindale is going to pressure and throw a lot of pressure, and he's got some guys up front that can do it on their own on one-on-ones. But it's can teams not can they stop teams from picking on one bad corner, which Deonte Banks as a rookie has probably going to struggle to start. How well is their nickel corner? It's how well are they able to hide those guys on a team?
Bobby, the Giants were excellent in one-score games a year ago. Obviously, everyone points to the Vikings as the darling last year, but the Giants were really good in their own right last year. Is there any concern for you going into this year that there's going to be some sort of regression in those one-score games, unlike last year where the Giants got it done most of the time?
That gives you worry because their margin of error was so small last year with the talent on the roster. Now, they've upgraded some talent, but there's still some very glaring spots. And even if you like a starter at his position, the depth is really bad. But to me, what would worry me about regression for the Giants more so than the one-score games, which is always a classic case to look at. But even if you feel really good about the Giants growing, they're still clearly the third best team in their own division, right? Like the Cowboys and Eagles are clearly better teams, at least on paper, than the New York Giants. The Eagles by a mile, the Cowboys I think are respectably better. That's the thing that worries me is when you're not even top 2 in your own division, you're like you said, you're going to need those one-score games to go right. Like you can't have any blips on the radar. So that's the thing that would worry me the most about the Giants is that they're closer to the Commanders than they are the Eagles.
Giants season win total, Bobby said at 7.5. Would you go over, under, or the number's kind of right where it should be, and this team could be a 7-8 win team in your estimation?
I think over. I mean, last year they got 9 wins with not very much talent. Again, good in those one-scores games, but I think that's where coaching shows up, and Brian Daboll was coach of the year. Wink Martindale was a really good coach, where I think unless Daniel Jones were to get injured, I think 8 wins would probably, from the fan base's view, not be what they expected, but still, again, over that 7.5. So I think they have a floor of being, an 8-win team and a ceiling of 10, which is not very much range, but still.
Bobby, one last one before we let you go. The Giants right now to make the playoffs, plus 160 at DraftKings. The no is minus 120, or excuse me, minus 190, I should say. Would you take that plus 160 on the Giants to make the postseason for the second straight year?
I like betting on the plus 160 more than the minus, so I would say that. You look around the rest of the NFC. There's, it's not a powerhouse like the AFC. The AFC, and who's the best quarterback in the NFC? Like Jalen Hurts. Where the AFC is locked. So I think the Giants, with their coaching staff, with improvements, and Daniel Jones to kind of keep that ship steady, gets them in the playoffs. But I think it will be by they are the second or third wild card team.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.